Resilient Jenkins built her fame by sharing the struggles of growing up in poverty, quickly capturing the attention of millions. However, she wasn't prepared for what was coming next.
Judge people. I would be lying if I said there wasn't a point in my life that I was so naive that I might have judged a poor person based off their appearance. And like I said, I have learned a lot.
Her rise to success seemed like the ultimate comeback story, with fans cheering her on as she climbed from nothing to becoming a social media star. But now as her career grows, so do the questions about what's really going on behind the scenes. With brand deals and millions of followers, fans expected to see her living the dream, but something didn't feel right. Instead of sharing her success, she started posting content that seemed off. Her lifestyle didn't match the image she had painted, and people began to wonder where all the money was going.
And we'll get some more answers finally.
Then came the scandals. One of the biggest controversies was how she discriminated between her children and Deshaun, or even her eldest daughter. People questioned her parenting skills and priorities, and from there things only got worse. Accusations of manipulation, dishonesty, and using people for her own gain began to surface. Fans who once saw her as a role model now felt betrayed by the person they'd been supporting.
Okay, well, I'll share original audio. I'll share the video with original audio because no, you're not gonna come at me like just because.
As Resilient continues to post, the cracks in her carefully curated image grow wider. The story that once inspired millions is now one that leaves people wondering what's really behind the polished social media posts. So how did it all get this dark? It's time to find out. So who is Resilient Jenkins? Resilient Jenkins is a 27-year-old mother from Peoria, Illinois, who became well-known on TikTok in 2022. She didn't go viral for talent, insight, or personality. Instead, she gained attention by filming herself in a worn-down kitchen, quietly talking about being tired, broke, and emotionally drained. Her videos had little editing, music, or structure. She simply pointed a phone at herself and spoke in a dull, flat voice.
I've come to the conclusion that TikTok wants to build hate. They want to create hate. Because tell me why the one video I have of me ranting and having like a little bit of a spicy attitude is getting views, is getting comments, and my videos of me and my kids dancing, me and my kids doing makeup and funny stuff.
She started posting in March 2020, right as the pandemic began. Millions of people were stuck at home, scrolling through social media. Her videos stood out not because they were good, but because they were different.
So I hopped on that boil trend and I think it turned out pretty good. My daughter helped me. We made 2 different seasonings, one that was spicy and one that was not too spicy for her and her sister.
While other creators tried to be creative or entertaining, Jenkins leaned into exhaustion. She showed herself struggling without offering anything helpful or original. Her earliest fans called her real, but there wasn't much to her content besides repetition and fatigue.
I thought we were supposed to look younger when we had our head back. I feel like it just makes me look puffy. Look, I don't know what the phooey I got those vaccines for, because ever since I got them, every time I get even just the slightest bit sick, I mean, I still gotta function, man. I have to take my kids outside. It's so pretty outside. I wanna go make them hot cocoa and just do like the mom thing, but like that, oh my god. Like, no, body, stop. I have so much to do. Please, just. I'm hoping and praying Mother Cannabis saves me because I've got to get up and meet Mama.
One of her first viral videos showed her making meals for a poor family. She listed the groceries, cooked the food, and ended the video by saying, "It's not much, but it'll feed my kids." The comment section was filled with sympathy, and people praised her for being honest. But the video didn't teach anything or give useful tips. It was just another clip of someone struggling in front of a camera. The emotional tone seemed more important than the content itself. As more people followed her, her setup never changed. The lighting stayed dim, the kitchen stayed messy, and the energy stayed low. People began to notice that her entire online presence was based on being stuck.
In fact, we had both assumed that once a video went viral, it would be because of some hateful comments. Sadly, hate spreads a lot faster than love in this world. But if it's gonna spread our content, then go ahead and keep on hating. The fact is, nobody's gonna be harder on a parent than they are on themselves. But Drew and I make every attempt to put our kiddos first, and that's seen through our content if you're a true follower. A little backstory for you.
Whether she was talking about food, bills, or her mental health, the tone never shifted. It was always the same quiet voice, saying things like, "I'm not okay today, but I'm trying." That line, or a version of it, appeared in many of her clips.
Don't like doing it. I find so much more peace on just focusing on my family and focusing on my growth. If you want to have your opinion on us, you can have that opinion. Let's take a quick moment for the first thing the baby girl was wrapped in when she was born in the car, her daddy's jacket. Let's say thank you to all of our supporters, and you're welcome to all of our haters. Hope everyone has a great weekend.
By the time she reached 1 million followers, Jenkins had built an audience around emotional heaviness. Her followers returned daily to see more of the same.
I can't really wrap my brain around what people's genuine issue with me is when it comes down to it. And we ain't gonna call me Stephanie Thompson, because just because I'm married to that fool doesn't mean that that's how I identify myself. So in this scenario, we're just gonna refer to me as Stephanie Freeland because that's my born given name, okay?
Some began to wonder if she was intentionally keeping her life in that state to keep the content going. Her refusal to grow or change didn't look like honesty anymore. It looked like strategy, and people were quick to point it out. And while her calm voice and sad eyes may have drawn people in, they also raised questions. Was she just documenting a hard life, or was she using hardship to build a platform? Was the sadness genuine, or just content? Eventually, the attention turned away from her emotional state and towards something else entirely: the children who often appeared in the background, quiet, unsupervised, and always nearby. That's when people began asking, what kind of environment were those kids really living in?
The girls wanted to see if Dad could do the Pennywise dance. Definitely made their night. Look at their faces. I don't know where my man gets his energy sometimes, but I'm ever so grateful he has it for our children. Then Drew took a second to take a look at a bump that's been bothering one of our daughters on her heel. I made my 3 older kids their plate, and then I broke some chicken up for my talk.
From the outside, it looked like a busy family trying to make things work. But when you looked a little closer, things didn't seem right, especially for the kids. Resilient and her husband didn't have steady jobs. Most of their money seemed to come from social media. She stayed home and posted videos. He was around, but it was never clear if he had full-time work. And still, they were raising several children and continued to have more. People noticed early on that the family wasn't managing well.
This is a cute little way to wrap them.
You look better than I thought you would.
They're cute, Booby.
The home looked overcrowded. There were too many kids and not enough space. In video after video, the same tight spaces showed up. Small kitchen, messy floors, crowded living room, and none of it was staged. These clips weren't meant to expose anything. This was just how they lived.
It's Sunday reset time. I started by folding all the laundry that we got washed up yesterday. It seems like every time I'm folding laundry, I have to go through and get things that my kids have grown out of. Like, why must they grow so fast? After I got finished with the laundry, I moved on to the kitchen. I wanted to give the kitchen a really good wipe down. Wiped on all the appliances, the cupboard doors, the front of the oven, and the top of the vent. So I made some cuts because this took me some time here. This is the kids' arts and crafts shelf. It turns into just a bunch of miscellaneous stuff that I have to go through every now and again. Now moving on to the girls' space. Now I don't know if this is just a girl thing, but my daughters keep everything on their bed.
Kids were often seen wandering around without supervision, even while Resilient filmed herself from another room. Sometimes they played in corners, sometimes they just sat quietly in the background. But the house didn't look safe or comfortable for the number of people living there.
Thinking, especially all them sending people to our house comments. Like, who in their right freak? I'm hiding nothing. Everything I have is out in the open. Y'all know everything about me by now. You really keep trying to make me feel bad for my past. Well, it's my past. I've grown from it. I know who I am today, and I know who I put forward. Most importantly, I know the mother I am. And I love these kids more than anything in the world. Everybody in the home is excited about the baby. We cannot wait to bring her home. And honestly, not that it's anybody's business. She actually does have a bassinet, so thanks for watching. See you.
The kids didn't seem to have beds. That became obvious after a while. They were shown lying on couches or blankets, but there weren't any cribs, mattresses, or sleeping setups you'd expect in a home with young children. In contrast, the parents had a private room. Their bed was made with sheets and pillows, all the necessary stuff. It wasn't fancy, but it stood out. The difference was clear. The adults had a room to rest and close the door, The children did not.
Let me be real with you, I barely made it through this Sunday reset. I am so freaking sore at this point in the pregnancy. But during the Sunday reset, I had this thing heavy on my mind. I kept thinking about how sometimes I put forth videos where I just don't feel like my authentic self is coming through completely.
The bedroom issue wasn't the only concern. The whole house looked stretched thin. There weren't enough places for the kids to sit or play. The kitchen was often cluttered, with dishes piled up and old food left out. Kids ate on the floor or stood around with snacks in their hands. It looked like there weren't enough chairs, plates, or even space for the whole family to eat together. The clothes the children wore didn't seem clean or warm enough. Sometimes they were barefoot, even in colder months. In multiple clips, they wore clothes that didn't fit. Shirts too big, pants too short. Their hair was uncombed, faces were messy. Even the baby's diaper looked full. These details may seem small, but over time, they painted a picture of kids who weren't being fully cared for. What made it more confusing was the way parents lived differently within the same space. Resilient often filmed from her bedroom. The room was quiet. She was alone. She had time to talk, do her hair, and show her outfits or skincare. But outside that room, things looked chaotic. Toddlers ran around. Babies crawled close to clutter or sharp edges. No one stepped in.
And she is pretty cute, but she wasn't really what we expected. So comments down below if you know. I'm outside right now to do this voiceover.
Even though money was clearly tight, they didn't seem to make choices based on the kids' needs first. She had time to sit in front of a ring light and do live streams for hours, but the children still didn't have beds. They still didn't have their own room or clean shoes or even a safe area to play. No one expected the family to be rich, but people started asking the basic question: if you don't have enough space or income to care for the children you already have, why keep having more? That's because over time, Resilient Jenkins announced at least 2 pregnancies after 2020 that made many people scratch their heads.
Who else wears a natural humidity meter? Yeah, something tells me humidity's a little bit high today. Bish, leave me alone.
Nothing in the video suggested that things were improving. The same living conditions showed up month after month. Over time, it became clear that this wasn't just about a tight budget. It was about choices. Choices to prioritize filming over parenting. Choices to create content instead of buying basic items. Choices to stay behind a bedroom door while the rest of the house was left to the children. The next signs of trouble came early, before the baby was even born. Their followers had always known they weren't rich, but this was something else. A new baby when they already had a full house and no visible source of income? It felt reckless. But rather than ease those concerns, Resilient's content only made things worse, because Resilient wasn't just dealing with poverty, she was making choices that raised alarms. One of the first serious red flags came during a live stream. She was pregnant, visibly pregnant, and between dancing to music, she took a hit from a drug. There was no warning, no hesitation.
Smoking is not good for your health, but you know what?
The chat immediately blew up. Girl, what? Oh, the baby could have lost his life due to this. She didn't respond. And it wouldn't be the last time. Over the following weeks, she appeared vaping in multiple live streams. Sometimes it was just off camera, a visible cloud of vapor drifting into frame. Other times, she'd do it directly on screen. In one, she joked, "Anyone else or just me?" while she sang. That line spread fast. People clipped it, reposted it, and debated it. Former fans, moms, and even healthcare workers jumped in. warning about the damage nicotine could do to a fetus. But Resilient didn't seem interested in listening. Pediatricians in the comments pointed out the risks of SIDS, improper sleep posture, and general neglect. A few went as far as reporting her account to Child Protective Services. When the criticism reached a boiling point, she started deleting concerned comments and blocking viewers who questioned her. But the internet wasn't forgetting. Resilient didn't address it. But by then, it didn't matter. She was no longer just a struggling mom sharing her life. She was a mom who neglected her children. And people were starting to feel like they were watching a slow disaster unfold in real time. Because once you saw the patterns, you couldn't unsee them.
Let's do another pregnancy update. I was gonna do it yesterday, but I ran out of time. So today I'm 33 weeks in 1 day, and I'm feeling huge. I'm feeling huge, bro. She also feels very, very low. It's getting hard to do just the simplest stuff, but I'm determined and I want things done before she gets here.
A pregnant woman vaping on livestream, calling the baby a blessing but showing no signs of preparing for its arrival. Followers had gone from being fans to being witnesses, and from witnesses to whistleblowers. This wasn't entertainment anymore. It was a warning sign playing out in real time. And the question that hung over everything, the one no one could ignore, was the same. Is anyone actually looking out for those kids who looked neglected and sometimes even scared?
What you slacking for, girl? This Hell's Kitchen. Get it up. Get it straight. What you slacking for? Mix that. That's right. Put some love in there.
That concern only grew louder when one child in particular started drawing more attention than the rest, Deshawn. Now, Resilient Jenkins' household wasn't small. She often referred to it as her tribe, a blended mix of biological children, stepchildren, and a daughter from a previous husband, all crammed into a chaotic, noisy home. Viewers were frequently overwhelmed just watching the sheer number of kids running through the frame. But the issue wasn't the size of her family, it was how specific children were treated on camera, especially Deshawn.
Oh, get it right. This is Hell's Kitchen. Come on, boy. Mix this. You got this. That's gonna be some good chicken. You putting your love in there?
Yeah.
Good job.
Unlike some of the kids who were regularly praised, shown dancing, or doted on for laughs, Deshawn often looked distant, upset, or overwhelmed. He wasn't the center of the fun. He was the one quietly unraveling in the background. In multiple videos, viewers noticed his meltdowns, his silence, his scared look, or his blank stares. Instead of comforting him or stopping the recording, Jenkins often kept filming. There was no support, just exposure.
Hey, I saw one.
Ooh, those are cute. Oh, they look so warm. They actually look pretty thick.
Yeah.
What do you guys think? You say thank you yet?
Thank you, Daddy. And the actually also.
They're
All
soft.
of them are hard.
As people dug deeper, the situation around Deshawn became even more complicated. Jenkins wasn't his biological mother. Early on, she hinted that she had stepped up to care for him during a tough time, suggesting she was a kind of savior figure. But online sleuths found more to the story. Allegedly, Deshawn's real mother had not abandoned him. She had been trying unsuccessfully to regain custody. The roadblock wasn't Jenkins, it was Deshawn's father, who had legal rights and reportedly refused to return the child.
Say that again to my face. What did you say about my brother? That's not a trait, that's my brother. You should stay away from my brother, 'cause I...
That detail changed everything. Jenkins hadn't rescued Deshawn from a void. She had become part of a system that kept him away from someone who still wanted to be his mother. Suddenly, the videos didn't look like tough love. They looked like emotional neglect happening under a false narrative. A comment on one of her posts captured the mood. "I'd adopt Deshawn before I let you keep filming him like this." Others echoed that concern. The final straw came when it became clear that Deshawn slept on the floor while the father constructed a bunk bed for the girls. The toddler got one too, but Deshawn didn't. The image hit a nerve. Even if temporary, it looks like proof that he was treated differently, not just emotionally, but physically. It wasn't just a bad look. It was, for many, the clearest sign yet that this child was being treated as less than, less important, and less deserving. Whether intentional or not, the optics were undeniable. While other kids were given comfort and stability, Deshawn was left with nothing.
I don't play about this one here.
In In Jenkins' home, older kids were often seen parenting the younger ones. Discipline was inconsistent and affection was uneven. Some children clearly felt safe and loved. Deshaun didn't. He wasn't loud or disruptive. He was quiet, withdrawn, like a child who had learned to disappear into the background just to cope. His silence said more than any tantrum ever could.
How did everybody's Monday go? This Monday seemed like a really long day. I think that's mostly just due to the fact that I'm pretty tired. About a week ago, we had the student parent-teacher conference. We thought I was given a little more insight on what I need to help.
For many viewers, it wasn't just upsetting, it was heartbreaking. Knowing that his biological mother may have still been fighting to reach him added another layer of grief. It no longer felt like a messy family under pressure. It felt like a child lost in plain sight, with a camera rolling the whole time.
Yeah. Don't worry about it. Just pick up. That's why we couldn't counter.
Maybe it was all about racial distinction, lack of emotion, or pure neglect. Jenkins' content had always revolved around her struggles, but this was different. This wasn't about her being tired or broke. This was about a child who didn't look okay, and about an audience that had stopped clapping and started calling it out. The Deshaun controversy turned what was once relatable into something far more disturbing, and it opened the door to a larger, more uncomfortable conversation about what happens when parenting becomes performance and kids become props.
You guys are all gonna get a chance to mix.
That conversation only got louder on Deshaun's birthday. In a vlog shared by Jenkins, what should have been a special day for the boy instead played out like an afterthought. Jenkins casually mentioned that they had a birthday that day and did not prepare for it beforehand. She quickly went shopping to get random stuff and make up for her forgetfulness or mere neglect.
So yesterday was our son's 9th birthday, and we did what we could to create some magic for our kiddo. Birthdays don't look the same in every household, so let's keep that in mind before we go to a judgmental state on this video, okay? Thank ya. See, to our kiddos, they're going to be overjoyed if Drew and I put the most effort we can into getting the gifts that they asked us for. Our kiddos love our cooking, so a nice home-cooked meal is going to be a win-win for them every time. And most importantly, family time. We are a tight-knit family, and we enjoy our time as a family.
There were no decorations except for a banner and few balloons. Just a quiet nod that was his day tucked between chaotic scenes and casual chatter. Viewers immediately noticed the difference. Compared to other children in the family who had full celebrations with balloons, pizza, and gifts, Deshaun's birthday felt like it had been put on the back burner. The backlash came fast. Commenters called it out as yet another instance of the child being sidelined. That little girl ripping that bag off his bed to eat his cupcakes on his b-day irked my soul, one person wrote. Another added, did what we could while your husband gets the best gifts for himself.
Hey, David, puppy. Happy birthday, boy.
Happy birthday, boy! Yeah, boy!
The disappointment wasn't just about the missing party, it was about what it symbolized. In a household constantly filmed and shared, where moments big and small are usually turned into content, viewers couldn't understand why this child's birthday was the one that didn't make the cut. This sense of favoritism became harder to ignore when viewers compared this vlog with earlier ones. Other children had their birthdays celebrated in real time, with effort, laughter, and attention. Deshaun got a rain check and a shrug. The daughter's 8th birthday was pre-planned and gift was pre-ordered. The decorations were even much better than the one on Deshaun's birthday.
So I'm just getting the chance to post our daughter's birthday vlog. Now, like I mentioned with our son's birthday, we are keeping our birthday celebrations pretty small, at-home kind of celebrations. Each of the kids gave us a couple of gift ideas, anywhere from 4 to 5 gift ideas that they really wanted, and we tried our best to make sure that's what we got them.
And then came something even more disturbing. In a later vlog, Deshaun appeared on screen with a clearly visible black eye. It was swollen and purple, the kind of mark that stopped viewers in their tracks. There was no explanation, and when the questions came pouring in, Jenkins casually dismissed it as mosquito bites. The injury didn't look like any bug bite. It looked like blunt trauma. Her response didn't reassure anyone. It only made the suspicion grow. Jenkins backed out and everyone was quick to address it.
Stephanie did, in fact, give Drew's son a black eye. Rather than explaining why this all happened. Stephanie makes a video explaining this. She's not going to explain to you. Then
That suspicion turned into serious concern when people began claiming this wasn't the first time Deshaun had appeared with unexplained marks. But a few days later, he appeared bald, his head shaved. Jenkins, rather than calmly explaining or even acknowledging the fear in her audience, went on the defense. But no matter how loudly she played the victim, the proof was still there. But the neglect didn't stop with how Deshaun was treated. It was all around him. The environment itself told its own story. You didn't have to listen to what was said, you just had to look at the floors, the laundry piles, the untouched mess. The home these kids were growing up in wasn't just crowded, it was dirty, and that brought its own set of problems.
Alright, help me settle a debate here. Do you still sort your laundry or do you rely on the washers these days to just do the job themselves? For me personally, I'm always going to sort my laundry. Darks, reds, pinks, yellow. It has to be like a medical bill, utility bill, something along those lines. Y'all can catch me here being a little over dramatic because I do not like spiders at all. I must have watched this like 80 times for my kiddos. I want to take my next month's payment and take my kids to Disney World or some crazy crap. But I know that's completely unreal.
Beyond just the space and money concerns, there was something else that stood out in nearly every video. The home didn't just look cramped, it looked consistently unclean. The clutter wasn't just the usual mess from having kids around, it was something deeper. Floors were often stained, sticky, or scattered with trash. Food wrappers, crumbs, and toys covered large parts of the living room. In several clips, toddlers were seen walking barefoot across dirty floors, even stepping in small puddles of who knows what, and no one cleaned it up. The mess simply stayed there. Laundry was another constant issue. Piles of clothes covered couches and corners of bedrooms. There was no clear separation between clean and dirty laundry, and clothes sat in heaps on the floor for days. Kids were often seen wearing the same outfit across multiple videos, some of which were stained or clearly too small. There was rarely any sign of a consistent cleaning routine for clothes, bed sheets, or even towels. Viewers began to raise concerns about hygiene-related health issues. Some noticed kids scratching their heads frequently, and comments started pouring in about lice. It's time to learn how to care for their hair, one person wrote. Others asked when the last time the bedding had been changed, or whether there were clean towels in the house at all. The family never addressed it directly, but the signs were hard to ignore. The home didn't have a daily or even regular cleaning schedule. According to things Resilient had mentioned in passing, cleaning was mostly done on Sundays, one big cleanup each week. But by then the mess had already piled up. And when you're raising multiple toddlers in one house, especially in tight quarters, a once-a-week cleanup just isn't enough. Diapers pile up, trash overflows, plates and bottles get left out. A weekly deep clean can't keep up with daily chaos.
Today I chose to listen to my body and not push it as much as I normally do for my Sunday resets. When I normally push myself to get the bathroom done and maybe even the kitchen, I wanted to focus on making sure I got the kids area cleaned and they all got clean sheets and clean blankets. For the most part, I feel like you could just use your eyeballs to see what I'm doing for this video, because I feel like explaining the Sunday reset is just becoming quite redundant. Bear with me, I may sound a little bit tired and maybe even a little bit spicy.
In one of the videos, the mop that was used to clean the dirty washroom was used again to wipe the floor of the area where children slept. One viewer was quick to point it out, commenting, "I love how you rub the dirty mop that just scrubbed near the toilet next to the kids' pillows. I'm gonna try that cleaning hack." Even the kitchen, the one place where hygiene matters most, wasn't an exception. Used bottles were left on countertops overnight. Open food containers sat out for hours, sometimes next to half-finished meals left untouched by kids. Sippy cups with milk were shown sitting out until they curdled. No one seemed to wipe down surfaces regularly.
I'm just gonna let you know right from the start, I'm probably not gonna sound that enthusiastic. We've all been feeling kind of icky around here. It's never fun to catch anything when you're already going through postpartum. Also, I mentioned in the last voiceover, I'm not gonna be trying to hide out in the bathroom. I'm just gonna go wherever I can get the voiceover out and do my thing. So if you hear that loud fan behind me, I apologize. One thing I'm noticing about myself this postpartum versus last time is that I definitely have more motivation.
Furniture showed years of wear without much upkeep. The living room couch, which was usually the main filming area, had stained cushions, food crumbs jammed into the corners, and the covers never seemed washed. Kids would jump and eat on it, sometimes even fall asleep there, because it was often the only place to sit or lie down during the day. Then glimpses of the bathroom were shown. They didn't help either. In one short moment, the toilet was shown with dirt visible around the rim. The sink had buildup around the edges, and there were no signs of fresh towels or soap. That glimpse, though short, added to a growing sense that the home's cleanliness had long been neglected. This wasn't a single bad day or a rough week. The hygiene issues were a constant presence in the background of every video. They had raised serious questions. Were these kids really being cared for the way they needed to be? Or were basic needs like cleanliness and safety slowly being pushed aside?
And I just have the motivation to try to keep up on the home. This time around, I got some help from my little twin. She kept asking me if she could help. I was like, if you really want to, that'd be awesome. Said she actually finds cleaning quite soothing, which I completely understand. There's something soothing about the details you can put into cleaning. Before y'all say anything, Drew did a bunch of cleaning earlier this morning while I got to sleep in. I wasn't up to record any of it because I was literally sleeping till like noon 30 with the two babies. It was awesome. My body definitely needed it. This girl literally asked me if she could clean the toilet and the floor. She said she wanted to get it done. Not about to stand in her way, and I said thank you.
And as people began questioning the living conditions inside the home, another issue became impossible to ignore. They didn't seem to have a stable home at all. For most families, stability starts with something simple: a roof over your head. But for Resilient and her family, even that became uncertain. What started as a few harmless moves quickly spiraled into a pattern. New homes raised every few months, sudden motel check-ins, and a growing concern that their children were being raised without a stable environment.
We got 19 days until move-out date. Yeah, you heard that right, 19 days. So here's to one of the last Sunday resets in our home before we move.
At first, it wasn't obvious. The family had always shown signs of struggling financially, living on TikTok income, not holding regular jobs, and raising multiple children in a space that already seemed stretched thin. But when they occasionally packed up and left their home without explanation, people began asking why. It didn't take long before a new pattern started emerging, one that involved moving from one temporary space to another, often without any kind of plan.
18 days until move-out date, and we've yet to be accepted into a new place yet. In fact, one of the first places that we put an application in for came back with the result really quick and denied us because of a bankruptcy on my record. Now, I bring that up because bankruptcies are public knowledge, and you guys are all fishing for everything, so you would have figured that out on your own as it is. And I'm sorry, but there's just something wrong with these application fees, because I'm spending $120 just to be denied. It gets pretty discouraging when you're already trying to be careful with your finances, and there's a high potential you're going to have to put in multiple applications for multiple places. I've seen this comment that someone said they calculated up how much we'd be making on social media, and it's like 18 grand a month. Man, I wish. Bear with me. I'm working on very little sleep. I'm tired and I'm trying to figure all this out, so I'm a little bit stressed out. So this isn't mine and Drew's first time actually trying to seek out other housing. We tried about 1.5 years ago. We were denied for making like 120 less than the minimum income. And then of course the bankruptcy had come up at that point as well. And I got my mom to think that I have a bankruptcy on my record, but that's a story for another day. All right, bye-bye now.
They didn't just crash at these places, they treated each one like it was permanent. In videos, Resilient would light candles, hang curtains, rearrange furniture, and tell viewers they were finally settled. But just a few weeks later, everything would be boxed up again, and the family would be filming from a new location. Motels, rentals, and short-term stays became their version of normal. They called it adapting. Others called it what it was: survival mode.
You didn't press it again.
Remember, posture is our most important thing.
I got a fart again.
Like swimming, and I just feel the desire to go swimming.
To the right, guys.
People started noticing contradictions. How was it that this family could afford to buy a brand new car, one that was shown off proudly in multiple videos, but couldn't secure long-term housing for their children? The comments became louder. You had money for a car, but not a home? You're both healthy adults. Why can't you hold down jobs? Each move brought a new level of stress for the children. In one video, girls looked so tired and children were lying as though too weary to do anything. Schooling became unstable, daily routines were unpredictable, and personal space was non-existent. Children were seen sleeping in corners, in car seats, or piled together on makeshift bedding on the floor.
Oh, little girly.
Daddy, can you come here?
What made it harder to watch was how normalized the chaos had become. Resilient would post room tours of their latest temporary setup, walking viewers through the cramped space with excitement, decorating with dollar store finds, hanging fairy lights, even labeling it as their new beginning. But viewers could see through it. Behind the enthusiasm was a hard truth. This wasn't a fresh start. It was another stopgap, another short-term fix in a long line of unstable choices.
Everybody was definitely a lot more comfortable in this room last night. And I got about 85% of everything picked up and put away the best we could. Now I know it's easy to look around and quickly judge. I mean, refer back to our first viral video when I said if you don't live in this situation, you don't quite understand.
Even basic things like food and laundry became challenges. In one motel, there was no kitchen, so the children were fed fast food or packaged snacks almost daily. Clothes were piled in bags in the corner. Sometimes the kids wore the same outfits in back-to-back videos, and when viewers pointed out hygiene concerns or asked about the kids' schooling, Resilient either ignored it or responded defensively, framing any criticism as hate.
Come along with us while we stay another night at a different motel room again. Now, if you've been following us for a while, you may know we are a family of 7 that is currently homeless living in a motel room. The motel that we currently stay at has an extended stay policy where you stay for more than 28 days. You have to go stay at another one of their locations for a night. Did y'all just catch my baby? He always be giving me back kisses. I think it's just the sweetest thing and I had to mention it. Anyways, let's get back to it. So the manager of the place that we're staying at let us know, hey, you guys need to pop over to the other place for a night. Bring it on us kind of last minute if I do say so myself, but hey, we getting kind of good at this. This time I didn't forget the toothbrushes. That was like the first thing I grabbed because I did forget them last time and I deeply regretted that. Made sure to grab our Gobi lights, and yes, that's important, especially for our kiddo on the spectrum. It's actually the first thing we set up when we got to the other spot. We made sure to get that red light going. Immediately calmed all of the kids' auras. Also, Lord knows y'all like to troll on everything you can. You slow down the video to catch whatever you possibly can. So yes, the PS5 is in there. And guess what it got used for? Miss Rachel.
The frustration from viewers wasn't just about appearances, it was about accountability. These were 2 able-bodied adults, both physically healthy, who chose not to pursue steady employment outside of social media. And while TikTok income can be unstable, there was no sign of backup planning, no budgeting, no job applications, no attempt to secure stable housing before expanding the family again. And Jenkins acted and complained as if the viewers weren't supporting her enough. People posted comments like, why does she constantly complain to us like we did this to them?
It's going to be the people who have been through what we've been through who understand, and these are the people that I post for. And honestly, the people that I have met going through the same situation that we're going through have been some of the most genuine and kind people I've ever come across.
And it wasn't just online. Locals reportedly recognized them at different motels and grocery stores, noting that they seemed to be constantly starting over. There were even rumors of eviction notices and unpaid rent from previous places, but Resilient's narrative never changed. Everything was fine. Everything was a choice. And as the family kept bouncing between motels and rentals, viewers were left wondering the same thing. How long can you keep starting over before it stops being a new beginning and just becomes the same mistake on repeat?
Come along with us while we update our motel room and give us a little bit more space. Quick Google search of this place will show you what the inside of these bedrooms look like. Motel rooms, my bad. Now this one that we're moving into, it has a full-size couch that pops into a queen-size bed, a bunk bed, and then the bed is a queen-size bed, not a full. And of course, we're going to move the bassinet over as well. So if you can do the math, that's more than enough bedding for everybody. So this one comes with a full-size fridge. The bathroom is separate from what we're going to be using as our kitchen area. No more toothbrushes right by the cooking area. Definitely going to be a little more comfortable while we're here. I'm going to be brave and show some of the clips of the process. Because while having a village is ideal, it's just Drew and I who do everything.
But it wasn't just the children living through the constant movement. Something else had quietly disappeared from the picture. And when people noticed, it led to one of the most disturbing revelations yet. In the earlier days, Resilient's home was always full. Not just with kids, but with animals too. 5 cats were often seen in her videos casually roaming across counters, resting on worn-out furniture, or curling up near the kids during long live streams. They weren't the main focus, but their presence was steady, part of the background noise that viewers had gotten used to.
One way or another, I'm going to have a tolerant cat, okay? I am.
Boy, still fast as boy. Come get some.
Then after one of the family's sudden moves, something shifted. The content kept coming. They kept shifting their shelter, but no video of the cats came out. According to Jenkins, they were going to leave the cats behind because they wanted that, and she wasn't going to miss the cat hair too. It was brutal.
After debating for some time, we decided we will not have indoor cats when we move. Prior to me and Drew getting together, I had one cat and he had one cat. The cat that he had was a stray that came in from outside, and the cat that I had was a cat that I received from a friend. Becoming a family, we brought in 2 other stray cats. So at one point we did have 4 cats in this apartment. That seriously did not last long, not even more than a couple of weeks.
Without warning, the questions started pouring in. Why didn't you bring the cats? Dumping your cat is illegal. These weren't trolls. These were longtime viewers who remembered names, who remembered seeing those animals on live streams, curled up beside the kids. The anxiety began to grow. And then 2 of the cats, Milo and Onyx, had been found by someone in the neighborhood they'd left. The animals had reportedly been abandoned, left behind when the family packed up and left without looking back. They were discovered dirty, thin, and anxious. According to those who found them, it didn't look like they'd been fed in days. Milo and Onyx were eventually taken in by a local rescue, cleaned up, and given proper care. Photos began circulating of their condition when found. Matted fur, crusted eyes, and signs of stress. People who'd once defended Resilient now had to face something hard to deny. It wasn't just forgetfulness. It looked like flat-out neglect. The backlash was sharp and immediate.
It's okay you saying that cats should be put outside and it's better for them, and to a certain extent I do agree with that. But the bit for me that you're missing is at the moment they are coming inside to be fed, yeah? So what happens when you are evicted and you're not there anymore? What's going to happen then?
This time it wasn't just about messes or poor parenting decisions. It was about basic decency. These were animals that had been raised in the family home, shown off for months, treated like part of the household until they weren't. They were simply left behind. People were disgusted. They couldn't take care of them, so they dumped them. If they abandoned their pets like this, what does that say about everything else? The anger didn't just come from animal lovers. It came from anyone who had grown tired of the patterns. This wasn't an isolated act. For many, it was part of a larger trend, taking on more than they could handle, whether it was children, pets, homes, or responsibilities, and then discarding what didn't fit when things got too hard. What struck people was how quietly it had been done. And the children had lived with those animals too. They had grown up beside them, likely formed bonds, and then one day they were gone. It was just another piece of their unstable environment taken away with no warning.
Excuse me, can we say hello? Can we say hello? Hello, mister. Hi, cutie patootie. Jasperillo. Jasperillo.
To viewers, it felt calculated. The family had presented each move like a fresh start. New curtains, new slogans, our forever home captions. But behind all the decorations and captions, things were unraveling. The cats were just one more example of that unraveling, of lives disrupted, of things left behind while the image was carefully maintained.
Excuse me. I'm trained to do laundry and clean the bed off. What y'all doing? Excuse me.
There's a weight that comes with owning animals. They're not furniture, they're not props for content. They're living creatures that rely completely on their owners for food, shelter, safety, and love. When people realized that Milo, Conscious, and Onyx had been treated like disposable objects, left to survive on their own, something snapped. Jenkins later said that they couldn't find pet-friendly housing, and that they were under too much pressure, but most didn't buy it. If you can't house your animals, you don't take on 5 in the first place. And if life changes, you find help. You ask someone, you try. But nothing had been done. The animals had been dumped until someone else found them suffering. The internet can overlook a lot, but cruelty to animals, that's where most people draw the line. In the end, it wasn't just about the cats. It was about the message it sent, that when things got hard, the solution was to move on, quietly, quickly, without cleaning up the damage left behind. However, it was all just the beginning of a larger catastrophe. Behind every video Resilient posted, there was a growing question that kept coming up. Where was her husband in all of this? From the outside, it seemed like she was doing everything. Managing the kids, creating content, cooking, cleaning when it happened, and dealing with the fallout of their constant moves. Meanwhile, her husband was barely present, and when he did show up, viewers quickly noticed he wasn't exactly involved. People pointed out that he often appeared in the background of live streams or vlogs doing one thing, playing video games. Sometimes he was slouched on the couch, headset on, lost in his screen while children screamed or cried nearby. Other times he was completely out of sight, while Resilient juggled 4 or 5 tasks at once. He wasn't working, he didn't seem to be looking for a job, and he definitely wasn't helping her with basic parenting or household duties. To many viewers, it felt like Resilient was a single mother in every way except legally, and the criticisms started piling up. The responses became more aggressive over time. Viewers who had once been sympathetic to their situation were losing patience. Some argued that with their financial instability, frequent moves, temporary housing, lack of beds, it made no sense for a fully capable adult to be not working. If they could afford a gaming setup and had internet for streams, why couldn't he contribute financially? Why wasn't he out trying to help stabilize their family? In response to the growing backlash, Resilient tried to prove them wrong. She began including short clips in her vlogs that showed him doing basic things. These clips were clearly intended to paint a different picture. To them, the short moments captured on video looked forced and overly curated. They weren't signs of real involvement, they were breadcrumbs. A few seconds of effort followed by hours of silence. The clips felt more like damage control than reality. Viewers kept pointing out that while Resilient filmed herself cleaning, feeding the kids, and breaking down in tears, he was off playing video games. When she posted about needing rest, he was still missing. When she said she was stressed or overwhelmed, he never seemed to step in. This wasn't just about traditional gender roles, it was about basic partnership. People weren't expecting him to be a perfect stay-at-home dad, but they were expecting him to show up to do something. And he didn't.
I recorded this earlier, but I just rewatching it felt it came off a little more like disrespectful and talking than I wanted it to. Just not the person I am, not the person I'm trying to be.
What made it worse was that whenever Resilient was under fire, whether for parenting decisions, housing problems, or financial issues, he rarely defended her publicly. He didn't speak up, he didn't explain, and he didn't show support. She was always the one responding, apologizing, or explaining away their situation. And then recently things got even messier. Rumors began circulating that her husband had become involved in a legal issue. At first it was vague. People speculated online, asked cryptic questions, and tried to piece together what had happened from tiny clues in the background of videos. But then some began to share more concrete information. Allegedly, he was facing charges related to a local incident that had nothing to do with Resilient's online life, but reflected poorly on him as a partner and a father. The specifics of the case were not fully confirmed, but it was enough to cause serious concern. For some, it raised the question of whether the children were safe, not just emotionally, but physically. If the man of the house wasn't contributing, wasn't parenting, and was now involved in the legal system, what kind of example was being set? And what kind of environment was being created? To this day, Resilient hasn't fully addressed the legal issue publicly. She's remained quiet, much like she did when the cats were abandoned. A few vague posts about staying strong and family loyalty have surfaced, but nothing concrete.
I'll end up with so much dishes.
Still, the silence only made the situation worse. In the absence of a clear explanation, people filled in the blanks themselves. And what they saw was a pattern. She defends him, he does nothing. Something serious happens, and she's left to clean it up again. It's clear what the long-term fallout will be. But one thing has become obvious to those watching. Resilient has been carrying more than just the weight of motherhood. She's been carrying a household, a relationship, and a reputation, all while being left alone to deal with the consequences of someone else's choices. And then as Resilient's online presence continued to grow, so did the skepticism. At first, people watched her content with a mix of curiosity and concern, but eventually many started to feel something wasn't adding up. It wasn't just the instability or the endless moving, or even the hygiene concerns anymore, it was the money. Specifically how it was being used. More and more viewers began to suspect that the family wasn't just struggling, they were grifting. At surface level, the story was always the same. Times were hard, rent was late, groceries were expensive, and support was needed. Resilient regularly mentioned financial difficulties in her streams and videos, and viewers who felt empathy often stepped in with donations, wish list purchases, and Cash App tips. She leaned on the kindness of strangers to keep things afloat. But what started as help began to look like a business model. People began to notice patterns. Anytime there was a new wave of backlash or controversy, Resilient would go live, cry, and talk about how much she was struggling. And almost without fail, shortly after, she'd receive another influx of support. It became a cycle. Emotional content followed by cash assistance. And yet things never got better. They were still moving from place to place. She still didn't have a job outside of TikTok and live streams. Her husband still wasn't working, and despite all the donations, nothing changed long term. What raised even more eyebrows were their spending choices. It gave the impression that the money coming in wasn't being used for long-term stability. Instead of saving for a home, for job training, or even consistent schooling materials for the kids, it was going toward the optics. Just enough to make each new place look livable for a short while, before the cycle started again. And viewers noticed. The idea of financial manipulation started to gain traction. People began combing through their older videos and posts, pointing out inconsistencies and strange timelines. Sometimes they claimed they were behind on rent, but days later, they'd have new clothes or electronics. Other times they said there wasn't enough food for the kids, but they'd show off meals that didn't align with that claim at all. One meal in particular stirred a lot of outrage. Resilient posted a video titled something along the lines of "Poor Family Dinner" to emphasize how tight things were financially, but the meal had eggs with meat. For many families genuinely struggling, meat is a luxury. Eggs and sausage are not the image of poverty. They're protein-rich and relatively expensive, especially for a large family. People pointed it out quickly. "This is poor family food," one viewer wrote. "Most broke families are stretching pasta or rice with canned vegetables, not frying meat every night." It became a moment that summarized the larger frustration. If the family was truly as financially fragile as they claimed, why did nothing they showed reflect that? Why were they always between homes but never between hot meals or decorative touches? Moreover, Resilient had decided to homeschool her children, a choice some parents make for a variety of reasons. But viewers were concerned not because of the decision itself, but because of how it was executed. There were no structured lessons shown.
This is so much box for just a few bucks. But I got some Spectrum books, 2nd and 3rd grade math. found some handwriting books. They're all kind of like close to the same level right now, so I'm kind of sharing the books and just giving them each pages. Dropped it. Till we kind of get a scale of where everyone's at, and then we'll just stock up on some books in a few months.
With so much time spent on lives, drama, and moving, people began to question whether the children were getting any meaningful education at all. One viewer commented, "How are they being homeschooled when y'all are always packing, unpacking, and filming? When do they sit down to learn?" It became part of the broader frustration. Everything seemed performative. They were always trying, always starting over, always doing their best, but nothing ever stabilized. And every attempt at transparency seemed to result in more questions than answers. It was hard to say whether this was a deliberate con or simply a family caught in a toxic cycle of online dependence. But either way, the result was the same. The children were the ones paying the price. They didn't have a stable home, a consistent education, or structure, and there was no sign of that changing.
A little later than I was anticipating to post. I was busy baby making with the hubby, you know what I'm saying? I'm just playing. I just thought I'd give you guys your latest to talk so you can make your car payments next month.
That's when people began to say it out loud. The family was exploiting the children's struggles and needs for views, sympathy, and money. One major example that viewers frequently brought up was the family's handling of their cats and the children's health. At one point, Resilient revealed that a few of her children were dealing with severe allergies. It didn't take long for viewers to realize the likely trigger: the family's cats. At the time, they had multiple cats in small, often unclean living spaces. Combined with the lack of regular deep cleaning and general overcrowding, it was a dangerous mix for children with allergies. But instead of addressing the situation directly and prioritizing the children's health early on, Resilient let the issue drag on. She continued to document their worsening symptoms, and she talked at length about how helpless she felt.
Oh, you want to get up? You want to get...
The truth is, struggling families don't always have choices. But there's a difference between being in need and constantly framing your need for online gain. Viewers began to feel that the children's suffering was being used as leverage. The more extreme the situation became, the more urgent the emotional appeals were, and the more the audience responded with views, money, and attention.
I'm not like you other girls. I'm very cutesy, I'm very cutesy, I'm very demure.
Over time, more and more people began echoing the same concern, that the family wasn't just going through hard times, they were using those hard times to gain financially and emotionally from their audience. It wasn't just about sharing their life anymore, it was about monetizing their pain. Even in moments when the children clearly needed privacy, sickness, emotional breakdown, signs of development or behavioral concerns, Resilient chose to keep the camera rolling. She would talk about how hard it was to be a mom of so many, how overwhelmed she felt, and how alone she was in doing everything. But always the messaging led back to how little they had, how under-supported she felt, and how donations could help her cope.
When the song come on, let me see you get gone. Baby mama, this your song. Been pregnant for way too long. Now tell the DJ turn it off.
Despite all the backlash, Resilient doubled down. She insisted she was doing the best she could, that she wasn't exploiting anyone, that she was simply being honest about her life and sharing her struggles like anyone else on social media. She even posted videos defending herself, explaining that people misunderstood her intentions. She said she only wanted to be transparent, but transparency isn't the same as responsibility. The moment your children's hardships are being broadcast to strangers in exchange for money or pity, the line becomes blurry. The moment those hardships keep repeating without solutions, without effort, without change, people start asking if the struggle is real or if it's being curated. And the biggest fear many viewers expressed wasn't about grifting or manipulation. It was that the children were growing up in a world where their pain was always public, where every sneeze, every rash, every disappointment wasn't a private moment between parent and child, but an opportunity for content. That fear is what turned casual viewers into vocal critics. And it's why so many now say this family isn't just unstable, they're exploiting their own story for attention, and the children are paying the price. It's one thing to share your life online. It's another to turn your children's struggles into a storyline that brings clicks and cash. At the heart of all this backlash is one simple truth. Kids deserve safety, privacy, and stability, not to be the centerpiece of a never-ending crisis reel. What do you think? Where's the line between sharing and exploiting? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you want a deeper dive into how Zoe Laverne ended her career, check out our next video. It gets even messier.